In this interview, I spoke with the legendary Doug Ferguson. Now, Doug was a senior VP at Pokémon for over 16 years, and he helped lead the Pokémon company from a small startup of 8 employees to the massive, globally recognized brand that it is today with, I think, over 500 employees. And when he left, they created a GX card of him to commemorate his time there, which is ridiculously awesome. Now, Doug is now the CEO of gaming at Bondly and the head of gaming and creative at Polkapets, which Polkapets is going to be what our focus is for this interview. Now, leading up to the interview, I reached out to my Discord group and Twitter, as well as the Polkapets Discord group to gather questions, and we had over 50 questions asked. Now, I chose the best 4 of them, and each of those winners have already received 100 USDC, and my favorite question is going to get $100 in Pets tokens as well when those are listed. And I didn't say this in the interview, but actually my favorite question was the first one that I asked, so you'll see that. Now, after we go through the 4 questions, I had some of my own, including a couple that I've seen asked a lot online, and we covered the new direction of Polkapets, the connection between Polkapets and Bondly, and how Animoca brand's investment in Bondly affects the leadership and direction there, and then what Doug thinks of all of it. Now, a couple things before we start the interview. First, I did get questions asking why Polkapets is launching a token after they've already sold all those NFTs. And we did cover that in the interview, so you have to watch to find out. But I also think that there's fairly widespread misunderstanding with the Polkapet sales. It's important to understand that each Polkapet represents a project on Polkadot, and those projects receive the majority of the revenue from the initial sales. Then a portion of that revenue goes to artists, and the rest goes to the Polkapet Foundation. And secondary sales have a similar distribution as well. So having a token will not only help make Polkapets more financially independent, but it also will enable them to add staking and future utilities to the token as well. So I think this is an excellent direction that they're going, and I'm more bullish on Polkapets than I was when I first mentioned them back in January. Full disclosure, I did accept an advisor role at Polkapets, so I will be working alongside them going forward, and I'm really excited to do so. I've gotten a lot of alpha recently from them that I would absolutely love to share, but now I'm also under NDA, so it's going to have to wait. Now, Doug didn't have video turned on during the interview, so I just dropped in his awesome GX card there instead, but feel free to just listen while you do something else so you don't get sick of looking at my face. And with all that said, let's get started, and as always, if you enjoyed the interview, and drop a like and subscribe to support the channel, I'd appreciate it, because you're the best. Okay, guys, welcome to the interview. I've got Doug Ferguson here. He is the head of gaming and creative at Polkapets. He's got a long history at Pokemon also that we will briefly touch into. Doug, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Love your channel.
I appreciate that. Let's get started with the first question. I think this one's really well suited to be the first question. It's from the Batman, and it's, what made you leave a traditional game setting like Pokemon to pursue a venture in DeFi gaming?
So I've been with the Pokemon company for 16 years, and through Pokemon Go, et cetera, the company kept getting bigger and bigger. And I think it was about 500 people when I left. I gave notice in December of 2018, and I left right at the premiere, of Detective Pikachu. It took them 5 months to let me go. And essentially, you know, that's what the card is from. That was one of the going away presents that they had done for me, because when we started the company out of the Bellevue office, which primarily worked on the trading card game, was only 7 people. So in fact, I think I was the 7th person. So, you know, the history starts with Doug. I'm kidding. And there were over 500 when I left, and we'd had the success of Pokemon Go, et cetera. And the goal of the company was to rebuild the Pokemon brand, because back in 2001, you know, they were treating it like a movie brand, and they really had dipped, you know, to sort of an all-time low. And Mr. Shahar had a vision that, you know, the Pokemon brand would be an evergreen brand if it was treated the right way. And that's what the Japan and US offices and the London office worked on for many years. So, but I've been talking for years about doing something different. I'm a terrible chaser of rabbits on the web, you know. So, you know, if t-shirts interest me, I learn about screen printing, you know, and trust me, I know more about making different kinds of merchandise than I'd ever care to admit. I think last night, Editor X caught my attention, which is a new responsive web design tool. And I just had to go, chase that one and figure out, is this cool? And I have no interest in designing a web page, but that's just my personality. So a colleague of mine who was a VP at Wizards of the Coast was retiring from Wizards of the Coast. He used to work for me. He was the head of digital, there. And after 20 years, he was, leaving the company, and he approached me about doing something together. He says, "Hey, I have all the digital and operational skills. I just don't know how to make a product, and you know how to do that. And you have, good operational skills as well." So that's what kind of triggered my leaving. And we were talking about NFTs in 2019 and blockchain technology and its application in both physical and digital, realms, and so that's why I had left. But by the time I had left, he had taken the job at BattleNet as, at Blizzard Activision as the head of BattleNet, which he just left. So literally, the leaving was originally to get more involved, with blockchain technology. And instead, I ended up taking some time off, and then the pandemic hit. And it was just out of this random, out of the blue, Harry found you on LinkedIn, that I get a call from Bondly, and they asked me to work for them. And I'm like, "You don't even know me." And they're like, "Yeah, but but we want to hire you." And I'm like, "Well, the best way to learn is by doing." And so I said yes.
Hey, well, that's actually, I think that's really interesting, because you spend all that time, at Pokemon, but once it gets to the size that Pokemon was, I think it makes sense that it was time for something new and different and kind of more cutting edge. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I was at Wizards of the Coast when it was smaller too. You can always, when companies are small, exactly what you did, and it's easier to see, how you move the needle. When companies get big, there's, the teams get bigger, and the coordination is more complicated. And in positions like mine, you still know how you move the needle, but it's not necessarily apparent to everyone else. And as the Discord, channels will tell you, Doug's horrible about getting on Discord. I don't like being the center of attention, but I do like to be acknowledged that I actually made something happen versus somebody else stealing the thunder.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, as far as not wanting to be center of attention, I appreciate you coming on for the interview.
So yeah, no, like I said, I think you're the only crypto channel I watch on a regular basis. Because quite honest about it, I am still really relatively new to crypto. I mean, it's only been since November of last year.
Well, I'm flattered. Let's move on to the second question that it's kind of related to the first. So this one is, how does your experience in Pokemon aid in the development of Polkapets? So, and I think it's also a good idea to talk about how was the direction of Polkapets different than the direction of Pokemon?
Well, I think when I first joined, I found out, much to my dismay, that everybody in crypto seems to love Pokemon. And it's like, when I joined, I actually was not joining to work on Polkapets. It was a project that they were working on, and they asked me at the last minute to help because they're having trouble getting it out the door. So the design, etc., just was struggling, and so I came onto the project, and suddenly I'm in this very weird environment for me where everything's working remote and everything's, everybody's talking about stuff that I don't understand half the time. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to focus on making stuff look cool. And so we finally were able to find, the right look for the Pokepet frame, et cetera. And then I started working with the artists on that. And I think if you look at, as the Pokepets, were slowly being released, that the art, really became better and better with every, card released. And so it's really, from my perspective, bringing in what I know how to do and teaching, the staff, the art team, the project management, whatever, how to basically, make things look as good as possible. And then as I understood crypto more, it's like, well, what is it that, they really want? Because customers, part of making a product is understanding what your customer wants. And I think I kept hearing a lot of stuff where I was like, I don't think our customers really want that. I think some of them say it, but I don't think they really want that. I think they want, first and foremost, a return on their investment. And then they want to have fun with their return on investment. And I felt like it kind of got lost a little bit along the way, and became about, people like trying to make Pokemon. And I'm like, I have no interest in making Pokemon. Pokapets is not Pokemon. Pokapets is a pet / monster brand of its own. For example, I've made it very clear, in my mind, each Polkapet is a unique being. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Drizzt novels from Dungeons and Dragons, but I see Polkapets as Gwynnefer, which is the panther that Drizzt, the drow, warrior, summoned from another dimension, as his companion. And I think that's why, we talk about there being spirit guides, even though we don't talk about them a lot. Especially since the change, where, I thought it was really important that Polkapets needs to focus on its original mission, which is the projects, the Polkadot projects, and promoting those, and not about creating a Pokemon brand.
Okay. So you're saying the overall direction now of Polkapets is going to be focused on the individual projects that each Polkapet represents. So the Polkapets, in a way, are kind of like a mascot for these different Polkadot projects. And that's
Correct.
kind of what the focus is about the projects, not about creating Pokemon.
Right. And so bringing alive the character of each Polkapet, is more important. Before, there were people who are arguing that it's about, spirit guides and the hero's journey and all of those things, that are, classic to Pokemon. But from my perspective, it's about, the pets. And when we have fun with the art, especially when we're doing holiday art and stuff like that, to me, that's my favorite stuff because it's all about the pets. It's how the pets interact with each other, how the pets express themselves. And so, I guess you could say that I'm taking more of a Disney approach to characters than a Pokemon approach to characters.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Right. So, I'm not saying I'm going for Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. I'm saying that, I just think it's, like in Pokemon, really, I mean, Pikachu, outside of Pikachu, most Pokemon are just, ones of hundreds of a species, that kind of express themselves in the same uniform way. And I just think it's much more fun to, focus on the personality of the pets. And I love having, different expressions of the pets. I think I talked to VIP and we're still working on this about kaiju versions of the pet so that we have a kaiju alternate, universe, so to speak, of the pets. And we've got all those characters developed and we've done some test pieces. And I'm really excited, hopefully in the coming months, to release that as well.
Awesome. So going forward, I know there's a lot of questions that I got where people are asking, and this actually leads into question number 3, is will we be able to stake our NFT pets to earn pets tokens, or maybe even the tokens of the projects that the pets represent?
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to tokenomics, I have a tendency to rely on our internal experts, including Harry, our CEO. And it's my understanding that yes, that is the intent. I think that was kind of that back to basics when everything was crazy, over on the Bondly side of things, and I really got to focus on pets without anybody arguing with me about the direction of pets. I kept telling, everybody it's about it's about the projects, and so that's why I think pets are unique, is because projects are unique, and that identification between the two is important. And so if you basically, bought into a particular Polkapet, hopefully, not always, but hopefully you have an interest in that Polkadot project. You're a supporter of that project. And we should be doing things to help support that project, including, the pet token and staking, liquidity pool staking, et cetera.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to think about it. And a good way, I think, for people who are interested to think about it is that if you like a specific Polkadot project that has a Polkapet, maybe that is the one to focus on rather than just trying to collect whichever one maybe you think has the best return or something like that.
Right. Well, one of the things to think about in the context of the Polkapet metaverse is that each project that comes on to the Polkapets, and we have 21, initial partners, which I believe the majority of them, if not all of them, have seen some success. From the time, I know that there were several purchases that original buyers, made quite a bit of money off of the airdrops, of tokens from those projects, for example. What happens is every time you bring in a project, you bring in their audience, and so the Polkapet universe grows by basically bringing in every, project. So, if a project has 10,000 followers and they join the Polkapet universe, those 10,000 followers come into Polkapets, and are exposed to Polkapets, and therefore, may become interested in collecting Polkapet cards.
Yeah, and then if you're doing it that way, and that's the focus, then you also start to develop this network effect where each new project coming on doesn't, if you have 21 projects and you add a 22nd, that doesn't make it 5% better. Each one adds it on an order of magnitude bigger because each one makes the whole better, if that makes sense. Just like
it can have an almost exponential growth effect. And hopefully, Polkapets is helping, people become interested in those different Polkadot projects, on the chain that they might find, in additional things that they're going to be interested in supporting.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the last question. This is question number 4. This one is, what is the most important milestone that you are looking forward to beyond the launch of the token?
Well, I like making cool stuff, and I like that. That's where I want to spend my energy, is making cool stuff, especially visually cool. And as we become more proficient working with the team, etc., we get to explore different ways of NFT interactions. And so, for example, on Kaiju Pets, my vision for Kaiju Pets is that if you own a first edition pet and a Kaiju version of a pet, you get, an NFT reward for holding the combination of the two. And if you happen to, own 2 Kaiju cards, that are part of an overall meta game, within the card collecting, set, that you get a combo card for that. And so you get, from my perspective, through bond swap or trading, or trading mechanics or combination mechanics, and even occasionally burning, that you basically get better and better rewards. So, and the same thing, there are some cards for first edition that I really want us to release that are variants of the original first edition cards. But to make those, we have to burn, the existing, whatever. If we make 90 of a card, we have to burn 90 from the original first edition cards, because they're just a different version of the same card. So I think reducing supply is a really interesting concept. And when I joined back in November, I thought it would really be interesting to let the community decide what's rare by allowing them to basically manipulate the supply of cards in the marketplace. And I really would think I would love to do a set like that.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea, and I like the idea. So you would just incentivize Polkapet holders to, if they want the alternate version of their first edition pet, they would burn that and then receive an alternate version, which is still a first edition pet.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the past about burning Polkapets to do various things. There's memes that started from it and all that. But
Right.
so would you do anything like that where you could burn a Polkapet, burn it to get the possibility of a better one or something like that?
I think um, yes. I think the question is making a decision about what you're burning, because burning $1,000 card is not necessarily going to be something that people are highly incentivized to doing. But I think we can put a proxy system in, where the combination of holding the $1,000 card and a proxy card and the burning of that proxy card, gets you something very unique and special.
Okay. Yeah. So sounds like what you're discussing is going to be adding more kind of dynamics to actually trading and using the Polkapet NFTs as kind of a trading card thing that users can participate in, and almost like gamifying it from that aspect.
Correct. And then, the additional thing always to remember is, and I talk about this all the time, this is something our team needs to work on getting better about, but there should be a lifetime journey of a card and a family of cards, and so we talk a lot about utility, and the most successful Pokepet cards are the ones that are embraced by the partners, in much the way the Mantra DAO does it. And they essentially, continually offer benefits to those, early investors in those cards, as their ongoing marketing.
Yeah, and
So the benefit of ownership needs to be part of the lifetime journey of owning a Pokepet card.
Yeah, and it's nice because it creates a kind of a win-win for both Polkapets and the project, because then the pet holders are appreciative of the added utility and consistent support that they're giving, which gives more support to the project, and then everybody wins.
Exactly. So, and I think that's what makes what Polkapets does, super interesting, is that it brings so many dynamics from so many different projects, together, where you can have sort of this shared metaverse experience of supporting, a variety of Polkadot projects.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk about, because I know a lot of people have questions on this, on what is the relationship between Polkapets and Bondly.
So Polkapets, currently, Bondly, I'm a Bondly employee, and everybody who works on Polkapets is a Bondly employee. So, on an operational basis, they fund, the Polkapets project. And then the Polkapets, when they're sold, on, the first edition cards, for example, the majority of the funds, go to the project, and then there's an operational percentage. I don't even think we've done, the return on investment business modeling, to, know how much, it costs to actually run Polkapets. I think that doing the Polkapets token, et cetera, is part of, creating a little bit more independence between the two. But the nature of things currently is that, without Bondly, there's no Polkapets, and until Polkapets is spun out into its own independent entity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you have to consider, since it's a vehicle for funding other projects, there's only so many dollars left aside, currently in the business model, for funding certain kinds of development.
Right. What about, I do want to touch on, because I know that Animoca Brands now has a significant stake in Bondly, and I believe in Polkapets. How is that dynamic kind of affecting it?
So, I mean, Animoca, they give us a lot of top level strategic guidance, and they have such a huge family of companies, and almost every type of company. I haven't even had a chance to adequately, go through and figure out all the Animoca brands, family of companies and their brands. But what I like about it is that there are actual companies there that have legitimately developed games, for example. And there are several games there that I actually want to go in and try. The question is like everything in our space, is the game actually live or is it a promise of a game? And I think that's, trying to explore crypto gaming is really challenging because so many of the games have, not really materialized yet, because game development takes a really long time.
Yeah, it does, and there's been an absolute explosion of new blockchain games coming out. So, and at the same time, in a lot of cases, we still need new innovations for them to work for what their goals are. So
Well, I'm constantly surprised. I mean, look at Sandbox and Snoop Dogg.
mm-hmm.
I just didn't see that one coming. So I'm constantly surprised. And I find that exciting, is that I'm constantly surprised, and then there's a mecha game from one of the Animoca companies. Is it Space Galaxies? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know what one you're talking about. I think it is something Galaxies.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is, if you look at Blowfish, they've designed, a mecha game before. So from my perspective, it's like, oh, okay, they actually understand how to do a mecha game, and now they're bringing a mecha game to NFT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think the Animoca brand's involvement, I think it is really good as well. I think it's helping to bring Bondly back and help to give the support, and also for a project like Polkapets, Animoca is going to also, I would presume, bring in a flow of new projects that there could be Polkapets made from.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Yeah, I want to thanks for having the interview with me, Doug. I think that these are some really good questions that the community had. I do want to thank the community for sending in the questions. I got, I don't know, over 50 questions came in, so I really appreciate all of the support from everybody.
Yeah, it was really great talking to you, Josh, and obviously, hopefully, your audience found some useful nuggets out of this conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. All right. Well, thanks, Doug, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers.